There is a substance that top hospitals use to fight incurable infections, bacteria that resist every known antibiotic. The world's oldest surgical text prescribed it for battlefield wounds. That was 3,600 years ago. Today, it is still used on the front lines of modern medicine. For millennia, this was not just food, it was the pharmacy. Today, telling the truth about it can be a federal offense. The FDA can fine a small farmer for putting these facts on a label. They call it an illegal drug claim. This knowledge was not forgotten because it stopped working. It was buried because it heals without a prescription. It works without being patented. Before I open this file, if this kind of knowledge is important to you, subscribe to this channel. It is how we ensure this information continues to be found. The substance in question is not a synthetic drug. It is not a rare compound from a remote jungle. It is raw, unpasteurized honey. For thousands of years, it was humanity's most trusted medicine. So what happened? How did it become just a sweetener for tea? The answer is simple and deeply unsettling. This knowledge was not lost to time. It was not replaced by something universally better. It was deliberately erased from our medical understanding. A truth hidden in plain sight. A pharmacy pushed to the back of the pantry. To understand the reason, you must follow the money. This story is not about better science. It is about economics. A natural substance cannot be patented. Its formula cannot be owned or controlled by a corporation. This makes it a direct threat to entire industries. The global market for antibiotics is worth over $45 billion. The advanced wound care market adds another $10 billion. These are markets built on recurring sales of manufactured products. Raw honey offers a solution that is cheap, abundant, and effective. It disrupts a very profitable business model. The suppression was not a secret meeting in a dark room. It was executed through regulations and marketing. First, regulators classified honey strictly as a food. This was the critical move. Under FDA law, making a medical claim on a food label is illegal. It turns the food into an unapproved drug. A farmer cannot write "helps heal wounds" on a jar. They face fines for telling a 3,000-year-old truth. Then, industrial marketing pushed a narrative. Pasteurized, filtered honey was sold as pure and safe. The heat of pasteurization kills its most powerful healing enzymes. The ultimate proof of this suppression is the final paradox. The medical industry knows honey works. In fact, they sell it themselves. Products like MediHoney are used in top hospitals. It is sterilized honey sold as a medical device. It commands pharmaceutical prices for a tiny tube. The efficacy is acknowledged, but only when it is controlled. Only when it is packaged and sold at a massive profit. They did not bury the medicine. They just buried your access to the affordable, natural version. To understand what they took from us, we must go back. We must uncover the history they tried to make us forget. This story does not begin in a laboratory. It begins on a stone wall. In a cave in Valencia, Spain, an image was painted 8,000 years ago. It shows a human figure climbing vines to a wild beehive. He is surrounded by angry bees. He is risking his life. This was not a quest for a simple sweetener. It was a hunt for something far more valuable. It was a search for medicine. This ancient painting is the first record, the first proof that our bond with this substance is primal. It is woven into the very fabric of our survival. The knowledge moved from stone walls to clay tablets. In ancient Sumeria, 4,000 years ago, the first prescriptions were written. They were pressed into cuneiform script. These formulas detailed remedies for wounds and internal sickness. Honey was a central ingredient in their medical texts. It was not just food for the Sumerians. It was a carefully measured dose of healing. The first doctors on Earth did not have factories. They did not have chemical compounds. They had what nature provided. They had honey, and they documented its power for every generation that followed. Nowhere was this power more revered than in ancient Egypt. For the Egyptians, honey was sacred, a gift from the sun god, Ra. Their most important medical texts are filled with it. The Ebers Papyrus lists over 100 prescriptions using honey. It was used for everything from wound care to intestinal parasites. The Edwin Smith Papyrus, the world's oldest surgical text, describes its use on battlefield head wounds. It says honey binds the wound and prevents infection. When archaeologists opened King Tut's tomb, they found jars of honey. It was still perfectly preserved after 3,000 years. From the Nile, this knowledge flowed to Greece. It was embraced by the fathers of modern medicine. Hippocrates, the most famous doctor in history, praised honey extensively. He wrote that it cleans sores and ulcers and softens hard ulcers of the lips. He prescribed it for fevers and injuries. He saw it as a cornerstone of his practice. The philosopher Aristotle studied the lives of bees. He documented honey's properties in his own writings. For the greatest minds of the ancient world, this was not a folk remedy. It was established, observable, and reliable medical science. This understanding was then codified for the entire Western world. A Greek physician named Dioscorides wrote a text around 70 AD. It was called De Materia Medica. This 5-volume encyclopedia became the definitive pharmaceutical guide. For the next 1,500 years, it was the primary medical reference book across Europe and the Middle East. And within its pages, honey was listed as an essential medicine. It was recommended for sunburns, skin infections, and sore throats. For 15 centuries, if you were a doctor, you did not just suggest honey. You prescribed it as the standard of care. This was not just a Western discovery. Half a world away, a parallel understanding flourished. In India, Ayurvedic medicine has used honey for over 4,000 years. They call it Madhu, one of the 5 elixirs of immortality. Ayurvedic texts classify different types of honey. Each is used to treat specific ailments. They used it to heal tissues, improve eyesight, and soothe coughs. This was not a borrowed idea. It was an independent discovery. It was another great civilization arriving at the exact same conclusion through thousands of years of careful observation and practice. The knowledge was also enshrined in sacred texts. The Quran, the central religious text of Islam, speaks of honey directly. It describes it as a substance in which there is healing for mankind. The Prophet Muhammad himself is said to have recommended it for various illnesses. This solidified its role in prophetic medicine for centuries. It became a staple of the Islamic Golden Age. The great physicians of Baghdad and Cordoba expanded on the work of the Greeks. They developed new preparations and uses. This was not just medicine. It was a divine blessing, validated by both faith and reason. When the Roman Empire collapsed, Europe entered the Dark Ages. Libraries were burned. Knowledge was lost. But this specific wisdom was preserved. It was kept safe inside the walls of monasteries. Monks were the guardians of medical learning. They cultivated vast herb gardens and ran the first hospitals. In their pharmacies, honey was a pillar. They used it as an antiseptic long before Louis Pasteur discovered germs. They saw its effects firsthand. They watched it save limbs from infection and soothe deadly coughs. While empires rose and fell, this simple truth endured behind monastery walls. Consider the pattern for a moment. Egyptians, Greeks, Romans, Indians, and Arabs. Civilizations separated by vast oceans and thousands of years. They spoke different languages. They worshipped different gods. They built entirely different worlds. Yet they all looked at this one golden substance and came to the exact same conclusion. This is not a coincidence. It is a global consensus built over millennia. It is the largest and longest clinical trial in human history. They all knew that it worked. They just never understood the science of why. That discovery was left for us. For millennia, humanity knew it worked, but they never knew why. The answer was not found in ancient texts. It was hidden in the molecular structure of the substance itself. That discovery was left for the modern age. Scientists, armed with powerful tools, finally peered inside this golden liquid. They expected to find simple sugar. Instead, they found a complex, living pharmacy. A system so intricate and effective, it rivals the most advanced creations of a modern laboratory. The ancient wisdom was not superstition. It was observation waiting for an explanation. Modern analysis revealed a stunning complexity. Scientists have now identified over 200 distinct bioactive substances in raw honey, enzymes that trigger chemical reactions, amino acids, the very building blocks of life, a full spectrum of B vitamins, essential minerals like potassium, calcium, and zinc. It also contains a dense concentration of powerful antioxidants. These are called phenolic acids and flavonoids, the same protective compounds found in the world's most praised superfoods. This is not just a simple sweetener. It is a biological engine, loaded with hundreds of coordinated parts. The antibacterial action is not from a single compound. It is a strategic, multi-front attack. First, it creates a hostile physical environment. Honey has very low water content, only about 17%. This creates intense osmotic pressure. It literally pulls the water out of invading bacteria, dehydrating them to death. Second, it is highly acidic. Its pH is typically between 3 and 4. This acidic barrier is inhospitable to most deadly pathogens. These two properties alone make it a powerful antiseptic. But this is only the beginning of its power. The true genius is a hidden chemical engine. Bees add a special enzyme called glucose oxidase. When raw honey comes into contact with a wound, this enzyme activates. It reacts with the moisture from the tissue. This reaction slowly and continuously produces hydrogen peroxide. It is the same compound used in hospitals as an antiseptic, but it is released in tiny, steady doses. This is enough to kill bacteria effectively, yet it is gentle enough not to damage the surrounding healthy tissue. It is a perfectly calibrated, self-regulating antiseptic system. And the arsenal does not stop there. In some honeys, like Manuka from New Zealand, scientists found something else. A potent antibacterial force completely independent of peroxide. Researchers at the University of Dresden in Germany identified it in 2008. The compound is called methylglyoxal, or MgO. This discovery was a shock. It showed that honey has multiple, redundant antibacterial mechanisms. If a bacteria could somehow resist one method, another would still eliminate it. This is why, in thousands of years of use, bacterial resistance to honey has never been documented. But killing germs is only half the battle. True healing requires rebuilding tissue. Modern research confirms honey excels at this. Its thick consistency provides a protective barrier. It keeps the wound moist, creating the ideal environment for new cells to grow. Its phenolic compounds actively reduce inflammation. This lowers swelling and alleviates pain. It also promotes a process called autolytic debridement. This means it helps the body gently break down and remove dead tissue. It cleans the wound without harming the new, healthy growth beneath. This is not theoretical. It has been proven at the highest levels of medical research. The Cochrane Collaboration is one of the world's most respected medical review bodies. In 2015, they published a systematic review of all the evidence. Their conclusion was unambiguous. They found that honey appears to heal partial thickness burns more quickly than conventional dressings. This was a stunning validation from a deeply conservative institution. It proved that in some cases, the ancient remedy is not just an alternative. It is superior. The most dramatic proof comes from the front lines of a modern crisis. The rise of antibiotic-resistant superbugs like MRSA. These bacteria defy our strongest pharmaceutical drugs. Yet they are not immune to this ancient medicine. A 2011 study from Hampshire hospitals in the United Kingdom documented this. They detailed the successful use of honey dressings. They were used on chronic wounds infected with MRSA. These were wounds where every conventional antibiotic had failed. The honey worked. It succeeded where our most advanced drugs could not. Think about what this means. We are facing a global antibiotic resistance crisis. Our miracle drugs are failing. Yet here is a substance that bacteria cannot defeat. A substance with multiple, overlapping mechanisms of action. A 2017 review published in Pharmacognosy Research stated it plainly. No bacterial resistance to honey has been reported to date. This is its crucial advantage. It is a solution to a problem that terrifies our modern medical system. This is not just history. This is cutting-edge science. The data is clear. The results are undeniable. So, the question becomes unavoidable. If the ancient consensus is now validated by modern science, if it works against our most feared superbugs, if it outperforms conventional treatments in clinical trials, why is it not in every home? Why is it not the first line of defense in every clinic and hospital? The answer has nothing to do with its effectiveness. It has everything to do with money, control, and power. The science is clear, but the system that controls our medicine has a very different agenda. The decline began slowly. Then it happened all at once. The turning point was the discovery of penicillin in 1928. It ushered in the age of miracle drugs. These new medicines were fast, powerful, and standardized. Most importantly, they could be patented. An old remedy like honey seemed primitive by comparison. This shift was cemented by the 1910 Flexner Report. It pushed a pharmaceutical-centric model for medicine. Natural remedies were pushed to the fringe. They were dismissed as unscientific old wives' tales. The pharmacy of nature was officially closed. A new, more profitable one was about to open. To understand what happened next, you must follow the money. The global market for antibiotics is worth over $45 billion. The advanced wound care market adds another $10 billion. These industries are built on patentable products. They rely on recurring sales. Raw honey is a direct threat to this model. It cannot be patented. Its formula cannot be owned. It is cheap and abundant. It does not create customers for life. It is not about better science. It is about a better business model. And honey was very bad for business. The suppression was not a conspiracy. It was a strategy executed through regulation. The key move was classifying honey strictly as a food. Under FDA law, this changed everything. Making a therapeutic claim on a food label is illegal. It turns the product into an unapproved drug. A beekeeper cannot write antibacterial on their jar. They cannot mention its 3,000-year history of healing wounds. They are legally silenced. This was not done to protect you. It was done to protect the pharmaceutical monopoly on all medical claims. With the law in place, marketing finished the job. Industrial honey producers began to pasteurize their products. They used heat to prevent crystallization and create a uniform liquid. This was sold to the public as pure and safe. Raw honey, which naturally crystallizes, was framed as unclean. It was seen as an unprocessed, inferior product. But this process had a hidden cost. The intense heat of pasteurization destroys the key enzymes. It kills the very components that give honey its medicinal power. The public was sold as sterile, dead sugar, and they were told it was an improvement. The final proof of this suppression is the ultimate paradox. The medical industry knows honey works. In fact, they sell it themselves. Products like MediHoney are used in top hospitals. This is sterilized honey packaged as a medical device. It is sold for pharmaceutical prices. A tiny tube can cost over $50. The efficacy is not denied. It is simply controlled. It is only permitted when it can be packaged and sold at a massive profit. They did not bury the medicine. They just buried your access to the affordable, natural version. They put a patent on a gift from nature. This is not a story about a forgotten remedy. It is the story of a deliberate erasure. For millennia, honey was humanity's most trusted medicine. Then, a new system emerged. A system built on patents and recurring profits. This ancient healer did not fit the model. It was too simple, too abundant, and far too difficult to control, so it was relabeled as a simple food. Its power was not disproven by science. It was silenced by law, a truth hidden in plain sight, waiting for those willing to look past the label. This knowledge changes how you see the world. You now understand the game being played. The line between food and medicine is not always scientific. It is often a legal and economic boundary, a wall built to protect a very profitable industry. When a farmer is fined for telling the truth, it is not for your safety. It is to maintain a monopoly on healing. You are now equipped with the context. You can read between the lines of every regulation. You can see the history they try to make us all forget. But this knowledge is not just an idea. It is a tool. You can act on it today. Seek out raw, unpasteurized honey. Find it at a local farmer's market. Speak to the beekeeper who produces it. Understand that crystallization is not a defect. It is a mark of authenticity. It proves the life-giving enzymes are still intact. Every jar you choose is more than a purchase. It is a statement. It supports a system of health that is local, natural, and honest. It is a quiet rebellion against a loud industry. This power, however, comes with a profound responsibility. Nature's pharmacy must be used with wisdom and care. There is one rule that is absolute. It is a matter of life and death. You must never give honey of any kind to a child under 1 year of age. Their developing digestive systems cannot handle certain natural spores. This is not a myth. It is a critical medical fact. Honoring this single boundary is part of respecting the true nature of this substance. It is a pact between ancient wisdom and modern safety. The suppression of this truth succeeded because it happened quietly. It was buried in legal codes and marketing campaigns. The antidote, then, is not complicated. It is conversation. It is sharing knowledge. If this story has resonated with you, help it reach others. Your share is a signal that this information matters. Subscribe to this channel to be part of the mission. We will continue to uncover the stories of healing that were pushed aside. Each person who learns this is one less person who can be misled. For a century, we were taught to look for healing in a pill. We were told to trust the factory over the field. We were sold complex solutions for simple problems. They built an empire on what they could patent. But they made one critical mistake. They forgot where real power has always been. The most profound medicine was never in their sterile bottle. It was always waiting for you, right in your own pantry.